Welcome to Up the Gut, the XFL of XFL podcast, because we may be new, but damn are we good.
Go, baby. Raise it hell today, okay? Bring the dude today, brother. Let's get it.
Come on, you gonna be standing right next to me, man?
Let's go.
Do what we do now. Let's go, boys. Let's go. Let's do a thing now. Take off, kid. Take off, kid.
Run.
Far side of the 10. Step back to the 5. 10 to the end zone.
What a play. What a play.
I'm Patrick, and as always, we got Matt.
That's me.
That's Matt. Tell your moms about him. They already know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
They
we're
should.
going to review week 2 and preview week 3 of the XFL season. I'm going to hand things over to Matt because he's got those sweet, sweet vocal cords, and I don't want to deny you any longer.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're going to jump right into it to week 2, starting off with the DC Defenders game.
Hold
We're
on.
going to call that. Go ahead.
Which DC Defenders?
Your DC Defenders.
Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead.
And we're going to call it the DC Defenders game because they're the only ones that put up any points.
Yeah, this was a very tough game to watch, even for me. I was loving it, but Matt McGloin probably had the worst game in any professional football history. It was pitiful, and it showed. And these after interception interviews didn't bother me that much until this game, because you could see the frustration, and he clearly doesn't have a handle on his emotions. And he called out his coach, he called out his team. It was sad, and I don't think it was so much because they weren't that bad. They didn't look that bad the prior week in week 1 whenever they went against the Vipers, but they look really bad now. So I think that just shows what the DC Defenders are, shows that we are the number 1 team in the league, and that we're going to win the championship. But what's your take on this?
I'd definitely say you're on track to win the championship. Yeah, Matt McGloin definitely had a very tough day. 8 for 19 for only 44 yards and 2 picks for an overall quarterback rating of 10.1.
Oh man, that's
Yeah.
his backup. They eventually benched him. I think you and I were actually texting in this. Said, "Hey, don't you think it's time they benched him?" And
Yep.
we were right. And Williams
Yeah,
come
they-
in, went 4 for 8 for 51 yards, and no
And
interceptions.
didn't turn the ball over, but still wasn't really fantastic. I mean, as a team, they only had 95 yards passing.
Yeah, and they a very low rushing total and like 71 yards.
Just no offense all around.
It's-
I think that's more of a testament to how good the DC Defenders defense really is, though.
Yeah, that was going to be my question to you. Is that, were they that bad, or were the defenders that good? And I think that, like you said, I think the defenders were that good. Now, I will mention one thing I did see as kind of a trend, and I think it actually trends through most of the game. And when we get to the end, I'll tell you what I thought of it and the reason I think it's happening. But everybody kicked it up a gear in the second half. It really seemed like they hit that extra gear. And I have I have a theory of why that's happening, and I'll get to it. But Cardell really turned it on in that second half. Tompkins was getting hit. Ross was getting hit. I mean, just our offense was clicking on everything. We got a defensive touchdown. Just all together, I think we're the most rounded out team. And I think that Cardell Jones isn't getting the love he should be getting. What are your thoughts?
I mean, he's definitely one of the better quarterbacks in the league, but I think it's just hard only because PJ's just overshadowing him every week so far. And that's why PJ's getting all the love. He's the early MVP favorite. But Cardell shouldn't let any of this get to him. Don't worry about whether or not you're the player of the week. Just keep doing what you're doing and keep getting those W's, because at the end of the year, that's all that matters.
Well, Cardell Jones is still undefeated since college. He's never lost a game.
Yeah.
And I still think that 62% completion rate, 276 yards, 2 touchdowns, beats out a 65% completion rate, 170 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think he outshone PJ this week.
Well, but PJ threw 3 touchdowns and never turned the ball over.
Yeah, that lone interception on Cardell can't be held against Cardell. I know it shows up in the stats, so I know it's there, but he didn't turn it over. He tossed the ball high and outside, and his receiver threw it back into the game, back into the play. It was not on him at all. So I think overall he's definitely proved to be the most consistent quarterback in the league so far.
I mean, I think right now the MVP comes down to between him and PJ. And I think we'll have a definitive leader once these two teams actually meet head to head, and we'll see what happens.
Well, after seeing what happened with PJ and the Battlehawks, I think that ultimately Cardell will come out on top. But we'll get to that game. Any good glowing thoughts on this game?
Here's my take from it. Your defense held the New York Guardians to a total of 137 yards of offense without AJ Tarpley.
That's true. It's an excellent point. Could you imagine if Tarpley was in?
He probably would have had a great day, just like all the rest of the defense did.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this whenever we traded away Silve, that he may have been one that got a pick, but we got plenty of talented defensive players, and we'll get ours. And we got ours.
Yep. As for the Guardians, I don't know exactly where the problem on offense lies. Maybe it's the offensive line. I mean, they were only sacked 3 times, but their rushing numbers weren't that great neither. But their top receiver also only went for 30 yards. That was their best receiver for the whole game.
But there was receivers open in this game. McGloin, he could not hit a deep ball to save his life. He was having a rough day, and he just let it compound, and it ruined everything. And unfortunately, with some of the comments he made and some of the things he said, there is a good chance that he may not be with this team next week.
True. These guys have shown that they'll be quick to fire people if they need to this year already.
Yeah, that's true. If he was a what was it? It was the Wildcats.
If he was a Wildcat, he'd be gone already.
Well, I don't want to see that for anybody, especially somebody that's supposed to have his experience and started in the NFL. I was hoping that he would do better than that, but with an attitude like that, maybe that's why he's not playing professionally. So hopefully, I think the Guardians are back. They'll bounce back. I don't think this is.
You think this is a trend?
It may look like it after next week because the Battlehawks are good, but I don't think so. I think that they'll get their feet under them. I mean, you don't beat a team by 20 points and then turn around and lose by 27. That doesn't happen all the time. I don't think. I think everybody's still trying to figure each other out. There's not a ton of film to watch, so I think that they'll get better. The coaching will get better. So we'll see what happens. But overall, what I got out of this game is the defenders are awesome.
Yeah,
Guardians are not.
No.
So we can move on to the Reptile Bowl.
Yes, the first ever Reptile Bowl between the Vipers and the Dragons.
Oh my, the Sea Dragons.
Getting their first win in the Link.
They worried me on this one. This one was a very tough one to watch. This was definitely a defensive game. No one was looking good. And I think the game was actually ended up being sealed by a pick 6 on like the 1 yard line. It's almost like he just took it out of his hand. If I'm remembering this, it was
that late Dragons touchdown. Absolutely.
It was a pretty amazing interception.
Here's the crazy part, though. The Vipers lost 17-9, but the Vipers outgained the Dragons' offense 289 to 199.
Yeah,
they held the Dragons to under 200 yards of offense.
Well, the Silvers on the Dragons has 91 pass yards, and I think he got 68 of those in one bomb after he threw a pick 6.
Yeah, to Reynolds.
So it was not a good showing for them.
It wasn't a good showing for either one because you look at the 2 quarterbacks for Tampa, and Those are not good numbers.
No, and I think we both said that this one would have been an easy one to call. The Dragons were going to bounce back because they had a good showing against the Defenders last week. They had them on the ropes for the first half. But what I got out of this game is they are not that good of a team.
Yeah.
They are.
And the crazy part is Pro was locked down. Pro had one catch for -1 yard.
Yeah, I don't think that's so much a Pro problem as it is a quarterback problem there. Maybe McGloin just needs a change of scenery because the Sea Dragons definitely need an upgrade at quarterback. What they've got going. I mean, they were talking about benching him until he hit that 68-yard bomb, and that held him in the game. But they need a change. That you're not gonna win many games if you only have 91 yards passing.
Right. I mean, granted, it wasn't enough to beat the Vipers and get their first win at home in front of the home crowd, so maybe that'll give them a little bit of a boost heading into next week.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, 2 quarterbacks and 3 interceptions thrown by the Vipers. I tell you, watching the game, the Vipers definitely look a lot better, and it's the same thing that happened last week as they would drive down, and then when they get in the red zone, they'd mess up, and then they would lose all momentum.
Oh, they still haven't scored an offensive touchdown yet.
Yeah, because they got a pick 6, didn't they?
Yep.
So
that was their only score, but they did convert the first ever 3-point conversion.
But wasn't that only an actual 2-point because of a penalty?
I lied. No, it was a field goal.
Okay, yeah, it would have been a field goal. There was the team that did get it. I think it might have been the Battlehawks, maybe, or somebody. We'll figure it out eventually. But they did get the first ever 3-point conversion, but there was a penalty, so that is actually from the 5-yard line, which is equivalent to a 2-point. I think there should be an asterisk there.
Yeah.
Overall in this game, the Vipers aren't as bad as what we thought, but they're still bad. And the Sea Dragons, I think, are actually worse than I thought. And this game is not. The score doesn't show what I watched on Saturday.
The Vipers could easily be the worst team in the league. It's between right now. I think it's between them and the Wildcats.
I wouldn't. The Guardians are probably even lower than the Wildcats. The Wildcats, in fact, we can go ahead and shift over to that game if you're ready.
Yep.
Because the Dallas Renegades at the
traveling to LA. Dallas
Wildcats.
getting their first win of the year. Yep.
But I tell you what, this one was actually a pretty exciting game. I didn't realize Josh Johnson would be back, but he seemed to be the difference maker in this as far as the LA offense and the defense. Yep. It had its moments. And I thought that the coach wouldn't be able to handle it. Ultimately, we were right because they did lose, but they were in the game. It wasn't the blowout I thought it would be.
Yeah, no, they only lost by 7, and Johnson came back and looked really good. Had kind of low completion percentage, but threw for $196 and 2 touchdowns in his first game back, both to Spruce. So, he's clearly got his favorite in that receiving core.
Yeah, and Landry Jones. Oh, Spruce was lock solid with those 2 touchdowns. I'm looking forward to seeing what Spruce does because he probably won't be here just the 1 year. But Landry Jones comes back and throws for 305, 70% completion, but
a lot of interceptions. A lot of those good numbers were in the second half because that first half for Landry Jones was rough.
Yeah, well, everything came in the second half of these games. But one thing that did come up that really I was enjoying seeing is I finally got to see a running game.
Yeah, Artis Payne, 14 carries for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a heck of a performance.
He was looking good, just making his spins, his jukes, his cuts, and run around the edge to get a touchdown. And I was enjoying watching him run, and they interviewed him. He said, listen, just give me a chance. Let me run it. And he did that. So I am looking forward. The Renegades were a favorite to win
it all.
I don't think they're there. I think that we got the Defenders and the Roughnecks clearly the two best in the league, followed up by the Battlehawks and the Renegades. So they're in contention for that third spot. I think watching the never say die attitude of the Battlehawks, they could probably still beat Dallas, but
Well, they already have.
oh yeah, obviously.
That was
But-
the opener.
But they didn't have.
Boy.
Did they have Landry in that game? I feel like Landry didn't play in that game.
I'll have to go back and look, but you're right. He might have been hurt in the opener.
Yeah,
But-
they had Nelson playing, and he was not the quarterback that Landry is. So,
But yeah, Artis Payne averaged 7.1 yards a carry. Dunbar had 6 carries for 42 yards. That's 7 yards a carry. That's insane to have two backs have a game like that.
well, they interviewed was it Stoops, the coach, and he said the way they're playing him, it just geared him up for the run. And good coaching can make a lot of difference. Jim Zorn needs to stop talking into a sheet and coach a game over there with the the Dragons. But overall, this was a fun game to watch. Again, a lot of stuff happened in the second half. And unless you have something more you want to touch on in this game, I think I've said what I need to say.
I mean, nothing other than the running game by Dallas. Nothing really stands out. None of the defenses were super great. A couple sacks on each side. The 2 interceptions by Landry Jones, but the fact that they lost a turnover battle like that and were still able to pull it off is pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, that. It goes to show how much the running game can do for you, because once they got that running game going, that's why Landry was probably able to hit a lot of his stuff after that. It opens up the game for you. So next we had
the game of the week, I think.
I think I agree on that one. It didn't seem like it was going to be that way. The Roughnecks started off good, and the Battlehawks, they just didn't seem like they had it in them to win. And then they just kept fighting. And I mean, they held, like I said, PJ Walker to 170 yards. He did get 3 touchdowns, but I believe one of those was off a short field, so that's why his yardages are down. Tamau, 284 yards, 81% completion, 3 touchdowns. He does have those 2 interceptions, which hurts.
Oh, that interception at the end was the backbreaker. Not just that it happened late in the game, but the dude returned it 50 yards back to the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
And then when you watch that play, though, Ta'amu thought that it was a free play because there was a guy lined up off sides, but they never got the flag.
I've noticed a lot of offsides not being called. So that will be something to watch. But I've noticed that on a few games. Someone will just get a little bit of a quick jump, and they just let the play run.
Yeah. But I can't blame that on them losing because they fell to a 21-6 hole real quick. And then they just – granted, that pick ended all their momentum, but the fact that they had to dig out of that hole was not a good sign.
No. Washington, Pearsonell, well, mainly Washington. He's got the 77 on the Battlehawks receiving. Cam Phillips looked good. But I tell you, one of the ones I liked watching the most was Holly. He was just all over, playing everything, doing everything, and he seemed to be one of their key guys over there on the Roughnecks. One of the things I watch in these games is I say, hey, who do I think will not be around next year because they get picked up by an NFL team? And in that game, I think that PJ Walker and Holly were the two that really stuck out. I'm like, those guys definitely are probably going to be gone next year.
Maybe, but I mean the big playmaker over there on Houston's side, I mean, obviously besides good old PJ, was the receiver that caught all 3 of the touchdowns, Cam Phillips.
Yeah, Cam Phillips, I mean, obviously touchdowns are what matters. But only 63 yards. They weren't working with that short of a field the whole time, were they? There's got to be some other yards you get in the in-between. I'd like to see. He got open in the end zone. That counts for something.
There's a lot of short fields because the Roughnecks ended the day with only 238 yards of offense, but they scored 28 points.
Yeah. I know they got 2 interceptions, and one got it down to the 5.
Yeah.
I don't remember the other one.
And then just there was one drive. I don't remember where the yardage was, but they sacked him on 4th down, and that was a big one.
Yeah. So
Oh, real quick, because I know we were looking about it. It was the Wildcats that got the first ever 3-point conversion.
the Wildcats. Okay, yeah, but it was only really a 2-point.
Well, no, it's listed in the stats as a 3-pointer. They're 1 for 1.
Yeah, it was a 3-point conversion, but then there was a penalty that was half the
Oh,
distance to
that
the
moved him
goal.
up.
So it was
Oh,
a 5-yard
lucky.
line, which is the 2-point conversion line. So, like I said, I think there needs to be an asterisk. There won't be. No one's really going to care in the end. It won't be the only 3-point conversion ever. So,
I mean, it's not their fault that the defense, created the penalty. You got to work with what they give you.
no, that's true. Like I said, they got the points for it, and that's a big deal. So, ultimately, again, this was one where you saw more second half points, and I think a big part of that, and
Oh, it
what I was
had to.
alluding to earlier, it wasn't just because you had to. I think that with it being so new and there not being a lot of tape on everybody, you really get to learn what team you're playing when you go in for halftime and you make those adjustments. That, and I think people are just kind of letting loose a little bit, getting a little more comfortable. This is still new. They're still just getting going. I think they're trying to get their feet under them, get used to it. And in that second half, they kind of let loose a little bit more, because that's why we saw a lot more second half, a lot more yardage in the second half. It really let loose. The beginning of all these games were really pretty slow.
Well, not yours. You guys had a pretty decent lead going into halftime, didn't you?
No, you don't remember texting me? I got a text and you said you guys need a score. I said nah in the second half.
Oh, that's right.
I
That's
was
right.
watching this.
Well, no, Houston was up because Houston was up 21-6 going into halftime.
Yeah, Houston, they kind of had it going, and then the Battlehawks kind of let loose. But there's always that exception. So
Yeah.
that was.
Oh, if it wasn't for that, Ta'amu.
He looked. I mean, he had a couple of rough spots, but he had some moments where he looked good. He was dropping some dimes in there. So
He was, like I said, he has a high completion percentage, and he can, for the most part, get the ball where it needs to go. But that one mistake at the end took away all the momentum they had to come back and win that game.
yeah,
And that's all it takes in football. One play can shift the entire game.
yeah, no, definitely. I think that's kind of what hit McGloin and got McGloin so far down is it takes one play.
Well, for McGloin, it was a few. I mean, he just had a rough day all around.
Well,
It,
it's
the whole
snowballs.
offense was just from beginning to end. The Guardians didn't even look like they had a chance.
Yeah, like I said, it's snowballs, but he threw a really bad interception pretty early in the game, and then it really got on his nerves, and it just snowballed. Then him and his coach got into it. Ultimately, though, looking at this, do you want to decide your player of the week?
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give it to Cam Phillips. I know he didn't have a lot of yards, and maybe it was just because uh, maybe it's just right place, right time. But when you catch all 3 touchdowns that your quarterback throws, it means you're on something. You're having a heck of a day.
Yeah, I'm going to go with my choice of Cardell Jones. He was the heart and soul of that team. He put up good numbers. Like I said, 1 interception. I would not hold that against him since his teammate decided to throw it to another guy. So I say Cardell Jones. 1, because I think he probably had the best game of all the quarterbacks this week. And 2, because no one else has given him love. Everybody looks at PJ Walker and they fall in love, but I think that
I mean, how can you not?
no, and he has been impressive. I mean, 7 touchdowns over 2 weeks. That's impressive. I'm not going to deny that.
Has he thrown a pick yet?
I don't think so.
I don't believe he has.
I think he's 7-0, which is good. But if you
Which
get
is
yourself,
fantastic.
I think
Granted, still only 2 weeks. Maybe it falls apart for him down the road, but for right now, I think right now he edges Cardell as the best quarterback in the league.
I think that it will fall apart once he plays our defense.
That's very possible. That is very
So
possible.
it is extremely possible. You picked Cam Phillips, even though he blew up your team for 3 touchdowns.
I mean,
You're a traitor to your own team. Sorry.
well, I'm not going to give it to Tamu.
No,
As-
you
as-
could
as-
give it
as
to
hard as-
Cardell, or you could have went with Thompson.
I could have, but I mean, he's the only receiver to catch 3 touchdowns, I think, all year so far. I don't think anyone's done that yet in a game.
Oh no, because the most touchdowns were thrown by PJ last week with 4, and it was 4
They
different
went
guys.
to each different, yeah. So I
So-
mean, he's had the best day at his position by far. Now that's not
Yeah.
saying that it might never. I mean, and it might never happen again. So I'm gonna say this is Cam Phillips' week.
Well,
Good for him.
I look at most valuable player MVP for the week, and Cardell was definitely that. He was the fire, and he does all the stuff that the line that he does, and he directs everybody where they need to go. So that's why I picked Cardell, and we can differ. It's okay. I think you said you had looked it up, and the official voting has not ended yet.
No, they have 2 nominees for the week 2 star of the week, and they were DeAndre Tompkins from your DC Defenders and Cam Phillips from Houston.
Well, I think there is a DC defender bias going on right now, so it'll probably be Cam Phillips.
Well, this is a fan voting, so the fans are voting. So we'll see later in the week if the fans agree with you or me.
I would have voted for McGloin. He was the most valuable player on the DC Defenders.
I mean, it is good to have 2 quarterbacks playing for you at the same time.
It really is. I mean, we both throw the same jerseys. It's really nice. So we're going to do, just because I was a little offended when I saw the Greg McElroy's power rankings. So we are now going to do the week 2
Up the gut.
power rankings.
All right, and I think we both agree that right now your DC Defenders would be the number 1 spot as of right now.
You could argue offense because the Roughnecks are putting up points. PJ Walker with the 7 touchdowns.
No, I got to argue defense.
Yeah, that's where
No.
it lies. We allowed 0 from the Guardians, only 19 from the Dragons. The Roughnecks 17 to the Wildcats and 24 to your Battlehawks, and they really couldn't stop Tom Mauer there for a long time when it was coming back. So ultimately, I think we were right with the DC Defenders being number 1, but it's a narrow number 1 to the Houston Roughnecks, I believe, at number 2.
Yep. Yeah, no, the Roughnecks are definitely in contention for the best team. The only reason I'm giving it to the Defenders right now is because both of their wins have been pretty dominant.
Yeah.
And the Roughnecks were 1 no call away from having St. Louis come back and take that win from them.
Which really worried me because that was the one pick we differed on, and I almost didn't get it.
Almost, but you got it. You went 4-0.
Yeah, so at number 3, I think we both probably agree that your St. Louis Battlehawks go there.
I would say so. I think they've proven that for now that they can hang with the best teams in the league. They got to tweak a few things. Ta'amu needs to make a couple better decisions, but overall, I think they're definitely in the running, and if things work out right, they can still get into the playoffs as one of the top 2 teams in the East.
Yes, and I give them the edge over Dallas because they beat Dallas, which is a pretty good way to get the edge. But I think Dallas, given another swat at the Battlehawks, may not be as easy for the Battlehawks when they have Landry going, but they have the edge right now. So where it was narrow from DC to Houston, I think it's just as narrow from St. Louis to Dallas.
Yeah, because Dallas definitely picked up their game in the second week. The Russian attack really got going. And honestly, in this league, that's pretty rare because I'll have to take a look, but I still don't think we've had. Maybe we might have had one 100-yard rusher. maybe. But
Payne went for 99. I think he's the closest, so I don't think we've bested 100 yet.
Yeah, because this is definitely not a running league. So if you can get a running game going, that could be very huge.
I don't think it's a running league yet. I think it's getting there. I think they're starting to figure it out. You're starting to see more more runs broke, more trying, and there seems to be a lot more of a assortment of runners. You're not just one back pushing it the whole time, so that could be the thing too.
Well, it's not just that. It's that honestly, if you look through here, we got some really high yards per average. But I mean, a lot of these running backs only get the ball 12, 15 times a game.
Well, and also with the whole clock stopping thing, rushing, you're not going to have as much rushing at the end of the game just to run down the clock because it doesn't work. So
Yeah,
I think that that may be part of it too. So who do you think would fit in there next?
at the 5 spot, I would
Yes.
give that to Seattle.
See, I think we're going to disagree. I think it's the Wildcats with Josh Johnson being back. Because remember, Seattle had like 130 yards total offense that game. They looked horrible. And it's not like the Vipers are a dominant team.
Right, but it might just been a matchup thing because week 1 against the Defenders, they still lost pretty handily, but they still put up 19 points.
Yeah, well, I mean, LA
Against
put
your
up
defense.
17. Yeah. That was also week 1.
True, but I mean, 310 yards of offense. I think they've been more consistent than the Wildcats.
Well, the Wildcats made some pretty substantial moves. And although the score doesn't necessarily show it, what I saw with my eyes was a better team playing with Josh Johnson versus the Dragons. But it's close enough that
I mean, and it could change next week. Next week, LA, even though they're playing your Defenders, maybe they come out and really show us something.
They're probably going to drop down. So I can go with Sea Dragons if you fall in a line and think that the Wildcats come after them.
Yeah, I do. Yes, because they definitely, like you said, they definitely picked up their game. Now their starting quarterback is back in the on the field,
and he wasn't overly impressive. I don't want to make it sound like he was, the second coming of Brett Favre.
Yeah,
he just it looked like a completely different team than it was. So, and then the Sea Dragons, like I said, maybe they're just going to have the defense that'll help carry them through, but they're going to have to figure out something on offense. I think I'd put the Vipers up next, even though they can't figure out what an offensive touchdown is. But the Guardians look so poor against us. And with the McGloin throwing for like 30 yards, I just can't put them above the Vipers.
But I think that was just your defense being that good. And like you said, Matt McGloin not being able to keep it in check because the people kept harassing him on the sideline. I'm still going to put the Vipers at dead last. Really? And it's because of the fact that in 2 weeks, with the offensive mastermind that is Mark Trestman, they still haven't found the end zone one time on offense.
Yeah, but they also didn't have Aaron Murray this week either. That could have made a difference.
But they did the first week.
Yeah.
When they only put up 3 points against the Guardians.
Yeah, maybe the Guardians are better than we think. I don't think they are. So, okay. They're both bad.
Yes.
The Guardians had a win, so I guess we have to put them over the 0-2 Vipers. But
you have to.
I think that
and the fact that the 0-2 Wildcats are ahead of the Guardians, I think that says something.
Yeah. So the official power rankings of Up the Gut, and you can hear us thinking while we do this because this is we're just rolling off the seat of our pants here, and we got the DC Defenders, followed up by the Houston Roughnecks, followed up by the St. Louis Battlehawks, the Dallas Renegades, the Sea Dragons. I don't think I'll ever call them anything but.
Nope.
Followed by the Wildcats, followed by the Guardians, and trailing last is everybody's favorite Tampa Bay Vipers.
You know,
That's the people's team.
yeah. Well, this Tampa Bay is looking like it's trying to mirror the NFL's Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. They're eating them L's or whatever.
Yeah, they're on the Jameis Winston diet, and I gotta tell you, that's not nutritious for you at all.
Well, I don't want to carry this on too long because we have a tendency to do that because you are such a great orator. You just get me thinking. So I'm going to run just really quickly through the only injury report I was able to find, which is not the official injury report, which has not been released for week 3 yet. So Dallas, it looks like they have 2 people on the injured reserve, and Flowers and Dunbar. And then Dungy and Ferguson are both questionable at QB and wide receiver. My DC defenders have 2 on the injured reserve, so they've probably always been there. Houston has D'Angelo Henderson as questionable. The Law, or the LA Wildcats, looks like they got Blacknall, wide receiver, and Canoff are both questionable. The Guardians have a whole bunch that are on injury reserve. Nobody I think we need to worry about. Sea Dragons have both Cameron Clear at tight end and Kason Williams, a wide receiver. Both are questionable. And the Battlehawks still, Keith Ford is questionable and Brandon Riley questionable, both ex-Buffalo Bills. Speedy recovery, guys. We need you. We need you bad.
Yep.
And Chase Litton and Aaron Murray, both quarterbacks of Tampa Bay, are questionable. So that could be why Tampa Bay, because I think those are the top 2. That's rough.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, when you look at these 2 quarterbacks that played for Tampa, if that's your future, that's not a good one.
And like you said, they did have Aaron Murray and in week 1, and it didn't matter. But you'd like to see him do something. I'd like to see him do something. It'll be a lot more interesting if he does.
I just don't want to see any teams go 0 for 10 in the very first season in the XFL. That'd be a terrible way to start your franchise.
Yeah, maybe we can do what I said, though. If the Vipers go 0 and 10, we can send them up to Pittsburgh. Get the Pitt Vipers.
Yeah, the Pitt Vipers.
Why don't you break off a little bit of preview of what we think is coming, and then we'll make our picks.
All right. Well, the opener is going to be, I feel, pretty one-sided. We've got the Houston Roughnecks traveling to Tampa Bay to take on said Vipers.
Which would be 1 o'clock Central on ABC.
Yep, 1 Central, 12 Mountain, because that's where I live.
We don't. No one wants to be there. You don't even want to be there. So we got.
It has its high spots.
We don't really even probably need to talk about this one too much. Houston's gonna win this one. I'd like to see Tampa Bay be a little more competitive.
Just try, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, maybe questionable Aaron Murray will come back and they'll do some back and forth because Houston defense has been susceptible to comebacks. So we'll see what happens.
Maybe, but I think offensively, PJ's just going to do it again.
Yeah, I'd like to see him slow down at some point, but that may not be till he plays the defenders and plays the amazing defending defense.
It's possible. I will say that this first game is where my crazy picks are going to come from, and they're both in this game. A, PJ throws his first pick.
Ooh, I like it.
And B, Tampa Bay scores their first offensive touchdown. Granted, it will be in garbage time, but Tampa Bay finally finds the end zone on offense.
I like it. I like where your head's at. I haven't even thought about what my picks are going to be at all. Clearly, I can't use those now.
I mean, yeah, take that.
You know what? I have my crazy pick. Okay, so next game up on Saturday, we got 4 o'clock Central on
Dallas.
Fox.
Yeah, we got the Dallas Renegades traveling to the Link to fight your Sea Dragons.
They're not my Sea Dragons.
You're the one that
Pacific Sea Dragons. I didn't. I'm reading it on a page. I did not make the website.
You know that's the short for Seattle Dragons. You know
Well,
it is. You just won't say it.
I think the Sea Dragons are going to get worse or look worse. I think they're going to go down our power rankings. I think that Dallas is going to have a good game. They're going to be very balanced. Their running game, I think they're going to probably put a little more focus on that because it was so successful. But Bob Stoops is coaching good. Landry Jones is healthy. So I think Dallas has this one. I think we're starting to see where they're at. I'd like to see more competitiveness to make this harder on us. But I think this one's a pretty easy pick.
Yeah, but I think Seattle will make it a little tough, and I think it's only because they're going to be at home in CenturyLink. And I know it's not exactly a 12th man, but it's just something about teams that play in that stadium. The crowd just does something for them. I mean, this is a league that is 2 weeks old, but in this Seattle game, they had 30,000 people in those seats.
If I was any closer, I would be at a game, but it's still a little bit of a trek for me. But
Right,
I'll
but I
make
mean,
one eventually.
but I mean 30,000 for literally a league that's 2 weeks old. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that just shows you that they, one, put it together properly, and two, everybody loves football.
Yeah. And if you don't, you still do.
Well, it doesn't
You
really
just
matter
don't
if
know
they
it
don't
yet.
because they're not listening to our podcast, so we can insult them. To hell with them.
Yeah, they do kind of suck. But,
So,
but yeah, I think Silver's for Seattle. He's going to probably have another average game.
below
Yes,
average, you mean?
well, I think he's gonna have another game like he did against the Vipers. He'll try. I think Reynolds again is probably going to be his best bet. I think Seattle's only hope is if Prohl can break out and just have another great game like he did in the opener.
So,
Granted, they lost that game, but Prohl had a great day.
39% completion for 91 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception is an average day.
Yeah, it's a quarterback rating of 50.
Well,
Yeah, a little below average.
it's
Yeah.
it's a sub average, but anyway, I get what you're saying.
But I think with the home crowd they'll fight a little harder. But I do think in the end Dallas is just going to run all over them.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement. So Sunday we'll start off at 2 Central, which it had been 1, so 2 on ESPN with the New York Guardians at St. Louis.
Yes, St. Louis getting their first home game. I think the Guardians are going to be a little more motivated after being shut out, but I think finally getting to play at home, I think maybe Ta'amu will calm down a little bit, and we won't. If to win this game, I don't think we're going to have to dig ourselves out of a hole this one. I think we can get the running game going with Ta'amu. Let him be elusive, but I think he's going to continue to be good. Not great, not PJ or your boy in DC,
Cardell.
Yeah, Cardell. But he's still gonna have his 75% completion. As long as he doesn't turn the ball over, St. Louis will win this game pretty handily.
I agree. I think St. Louis has this one. They have been like 7-point underdogs in 2 games on the road, and both of them in Texas, and that's rough to start off 2 games. But 1-1, starting off on the road, one of them against probably, arguably, could have been the number 1 team.
Yeah, but we'll call him 1.5.
Yeah, so it's great showing. I think that finally being at home in front of those fans, getting to experience that for the first time, players are going to be amped. But here, you ready for my crazy picks?
Yeah.
Matt McGloin will start for the Guardians.
Yeah.
And he will throw for 250 and 2 touchdowns.
Any turnovers?
I probably, but that's not crazy.
250 and 2 touchdowns. Yeah,
after 39 yards passing and getting benched.
Yeah.
So that's my crazy prediction, which takes us into the late game on Sunday at 5:00 Central on FS1.
Yeah. And after 2 weeks of starting the week, this time we end the week with your DC Defenders
First time on the
Travel-
road.
Yeah, first time on the road, traveling to La Wildcats.
My DC Defenders are going to win.
Yeah, probably by a lot too.
yeah. I think the defense is too much. Josh Johnson, like I said, he looked good, but he didn't look great. So I think he's going to struggle against this defense. I think Cardell's going to keep doing what Cardell does, throwing a good game. My normal pick, not crazy pick, I think Cardell finally goes over the 300 mark because he's been close, but he hasn't bested it.
I can see that. You know what? I have another, maybe not so crazy, but I have another prediction though.
What's that?
I think the Defenders get their second straight shutout.
Ooh, I like it. It's not crazy, but I think that Josh Johnson has enough to keep some points on the board, but I like it. That would be good. That would really cement our defense as the number one defense in the league.
Oh, dude, if you get 2 shutouts in a row, I don't care what Houston does. That would pretty much put you guys at the number one spot.
And I don't even remember what my pick was last week.
You're crazy?
Not even just my normal one. We've probably ought to fact check ourselves sometimes, but I'm sure it wasn't right.
No,
I think I said that Cardell would do like 250 and 3 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns or something. I was getting close.
No, that was the first week you predicted 304 touchdowns.
Yeah, well, I think I kind of I hitched my wagon to him. I'm going to predict that he's going to run over or do over 300. So,
no, I'm not going to do this one because I picked the score and I believe I put the Defenders winning 24-0.
I am going to jot this down. McGloin is 250 and 2 touchdowns. And then I have Mike Cardell
for cracking the 300 mark.
Not
and then
crazy.
I had PJ throwing his first pick.
PJ INT. Okay.
And the Vipers finally scoring their first offensive touchdown.
Okay.
And the Defenders getting a second straight shutout.
I have them documented on a sheet of paper randomly sitting by my computer.
Yep. But this week, all 4 of our picks are the same as far as the winners, so I don't have to worry about falling behind even farther.
Yeah, I mean, you're only one behind. So,
well, if the weeks keep going like this to where they're pretty easy to pick, I'm not going to ever make up no ground either.
That's true. So I think we went with Houston over Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I think that's the lock of the week. Well, no, DC over LA is a pretty good one too.
They're both pretty, I think, easy to pick. Definitely, if Vipers or Wildcats win, it is going to be the upset of the week, guaranteed.
Oh, huge, yeah.
So Houston over Tampa Bay, Dallas over the Sea Dragons,
yep.
St. Louis over the Guardians, and DC over LA.
I think the game of the week, though, might be this Dallas-Seattle one. I think that might be the closest contested one.
If, and it's a big if, my crazy prediction of McGloin doing 250 and 2 touchdowns, then that will be the game of the week.
Oh yeah, if your thing comes true, absolutely.
Yeah, I think because that means it's going to be very competitive, and Tom Mahu's going to have to be doing some stuff. I think that'll. I'm going to hitch my horse to that. I'm going to say that will be the game of the week.
Well, Tom is going to have to do stuff anyway because so far he's been the offense.
Yeah,
everything runs through him, so he has to. He has to Aaron Rodgers it. He has to carry them, and try to make everyone else play better.
Well, if you remember, Jones had a good 80 yards rushing in his first week
in the opener, but then this past week he only had 40 something.
But I think he was on the injury report last week, so maybe he's just recovering because he only had 44, and Keith Ford's still out. So if you get those guys back, you can get your running game going.
And Christian Michael still isn't playing as well as we'd hoped.
Yeah, that one surprises me a little bit, but that's okay. I think ultimately, obviously, the Battlehawks win, but I think that we'll get a better showing out of McGloin. I think he'll bounce back. Hopefully, the coaches gave him a little talking to and said, "Listen, you're not Aaron Rodgers. You're not Peyton Manning.
You're not even Kirk Cousins."
That's true, and I know how you feel about Kirk Cousins. So
as long as he stays in purple, I love Kirk Cousins.
that's my point. So I think that if he lets his ego get set aside, get coached up, he can. I've seen him be able to make some throws. I've seen some stuff out of him, so maybe he'll do that. But one thing I really hope doesn't happen is I hope they don't record him taking off his helmet and putting on his beanie anymore. I've seen it enough.
I would say this, though. The sideline reporter does not hit everyone the same, because Landry Jones started his game rough, throwing those 2 picks and just kind of missing the mark. And they interviewed him the same way. And basically, he was just like, yeah, I just got to play better. We'll get there.
Yeah, he
And
had the
eventually they
proper
did.
attitude. He didn't blame anybody but himself. Said, I need to make better decisions. I need to play better football.
Yep.
Real easy to get out of this hole. We'll do it.
And then he did.
And that's what you want out of your quarterback. That's what your coaches want. I mean, going into halftime when McGloin said they had to change the whole offense, the coach had no idea. He said, what? Why would he? Yeah, we're going to have to take care of this.
Yeah, some people just get emotional. The game of football do that to you.
Yeah, but you got to have a level-headed quarterback, because if you don't, you end up throwing 2 or 3 picks with 39 yards passing.
Yeah. And when you have a day like that, it's really hard to make your case to play again.
Yeah, that is true. But I think they will let him. I think that they really don't have a choice. I think if he does another week like he did, I do not be surprised if he doesn't get traded. Look for the Seattle Dragons, maybe a 3-person trade, because I think that the DC Defenders have a good backup in Tyree Jackson.
Yeah.
So there is a chance that they may shift some people around, because I think McGloin would do better having an opportunity somewhere else. Maybe if he does it again, if he bounces back and nothing happened, he does the 250, then, obviously they won't trade him, but there is a chance that he could have a repeat, or they don't even start him and he gets traded anyway.
Oh, absolutely. His future ultimately is in his hands. He's the one that's already kind of dug himself in this hole, having that bad attitude and throwing his team under the bus. Now he has to prove that he can rise above.
Yeah, well, I think that we've kind of reached the end of it, and we're not doing another hour and a half long show this week, are we?
Yeah, no, we were finally getting everything tightened down. We came in with a better plan. Granted, we had an extra day to work on it because we were supposed to record on Monday, but one of us was under the weather.
And it wasn't
his
me.
His name wasn't Patrick.
So what I will say is this is a new show. We enjoy the hell out of it. But we do post it on YouTube, a podcast on YouTube with no video. So what we need from you guys is, if you're listening to this, if you made it to this end, leave a comment. Tell us what would you like to hear? Would you like a segment that maybe we're not doing? Would you like us to maybe go more in depth on something? So throw us a like, subscribe, and then, like I said, give us a comment what you want.
Smash that bell. Do it.
That's what smash something. Do something. Headbutt it. Run it right up the gut into the smash that like. I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
Yeah, the notification bell. That's the thing that YouTube wants you to put in all the videos.
Yeah.
Hit the notification bell so you know we post a video.
Yeah, and if not, we are planning, unless Ahlers gets sick, to record on Monday and then have it released, so you guys can actually listen to this before the games happen.
And then I'm also hoping, before we record our next episode, to be able to get a Twitter account put together for the podcast. So if people do actually ever want to tweet us, we can do that and try to answer things in real time.
And if someone tweets you something really mean and angers you, it was Ahlers. It was not me.
That is 50% true. It all depends on what you tweeted.
I won't be tweeting. It'll be you. You can handle the Twitter.
I'm pretty sure if someone says something bad about DC, you'll want to respond.
That's probably true. But who would say anything bad about DC? That's just nonsense.
A Houston fan who thinks they're number one? It's possible.
Yeah, well, they're just crazy. That's crazy talk. Ahlers, you're being crazy.
I'm not being crazy. I've been look. You and I both have been around many a group of fans, and they're not all level-headed people who can look at football and see the bigger picture.
Yeah, but we can agree on one thing: the football fans are a lot better than not football fans. Screw those guys.
Actually, I thought we were going to both agree that Dallas is not America's team. I thought that was the thing.
They haven't been America's team. I don't think they ever were. They can call themselves what they want. I don't think they ever were.
I'm going to put this out there for everybody to hear. Of all the teams in the NFL, there are only 2 teams who could have a legitimate claim to be America's team. 2. And none of them are in Texas. One is the Patriots, because that's what we call people who love their country is Patriots, so them. And 2 would be the Green Bay Packers, because they are the only team that practice democracy.
I would agree on the Packers. I think that the Patriots, if they were real fans, but they're just bandwagon fans that have been lucky enough to have a team winning for a long time. Well, now that they're going to start losing, they're going to have a lot less fans, so they're not going to be America's team. I think that there was some research done, I'd have to look it up, that the fans most spread across America is actually the Buffalo Bills. And some of the best traveling fans that are spread out is also Pittsburgh. So I think those would be your 3, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, and Buffalo.
Those are the best fan bases, but again, when you think about America, you think of patriotism and democracy, and Green Bay,
white, and blue. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, those are the Bills colors.
and the Patriots colors, and the Texans colors.
Patriots. No. Those are different. The Patriots are stupid. And they don't have near the red, white, and blue that Buffalo does. We are straight up America's team. But I think it was Nate Burleson that said, we may not be America's team, but we're definitely America's spirit animal.
The Buffalo Bills.
Yes.
I think it is now with the Bills Mafia. I love the Bills Mafia. They're fantastic.
I helped get the Bills Mafia going.
Did you break the first table?
No, that I'm sure that was going on for the Mafia. I have broke tables, but I'm too old to do that stuff now. But no, there was a time when they were trying to get the Bills Mafia as a legit charity, and I donated money, and that was a founding sponsor of the Bills Mafia, which I think kind of died off and turned into 26 shirts, which is an amazing thing where they do a shirt every couple of weeks, and all the proceeds go to some sort of a person fighting a terminal illness or something along those lines, or charity like Lorenzo Alexander's charity or something like that. The Pop Foundation. Yeah. So check out, I think it's 26 shirts. I just bought a Buffalo shirt. I forget what they called it, but it was basically like the Lion King, where they like rub the red across his head. The monkey does.
Yeah.
But instead of it being a lion, it's a Buffalo Bill, and that red stripe is basically the charging buffalo, and and with the option to buy that shirt, it said, would you like to do a mystery shirt for like $7 or $10? I'm like, well, sure. And I got a freaking sweatshirt. My wife stole it.
Oh, that's fantastic though.
But yeah, good. It's a good cause. So, and they don't always just do Buffalo stuff, but it's mostly Buffalo stuff.
Awesome. We have forgot to do, though, that we talked about before even starting the show, our fake sponsorships.
Oh, yeah. Well, today's Up the Gut was sponsored by Jameson, because that's what I'm drinking.
And Pop-Tarts, because when you work graveyards, you eat breakfast at 7:30 at night.
And you needed something in your tum-tum. Some of that good.
I did, because I'd been asleep for the past 7 hours, and it was breakfast time.
Well, that's good. So Pop-Tarts and Jameson, breakfast of champions.
Yes.
Well, everybody, we kind of got a little off topic, but I'd rather we got off topic there at the end. Just give you guys a little something to look forward to. Thank you so much. Treat. Yeah, a little Pop-Tart at the end. As always, for Up the Gut, I'm Patrick, and with me, as always, is Archibald.
Still not my name.
Still best way to end the show.
No. My name is Matt Ehlers. This has been Up the Gut, and as per the usual, tell your mom about us.
Up the Gut. A play in American football in which the player runs the ball through the middle of the field through defenders.